Hello everyone, this is NovoNotes. Today, I would like to show you how the 3DX plugin is used in 3DX Teaser by observing the actual mixing screen. There are two main points of use. First, how to actually move the sound, and second, how to use 3DX to express the height and breadth of the sound. I would like to talk about this in two sections. First, please listen to the teaser music. There are actually a lot of sounds moving around, so I would like you to listen to it while exploring the impressive capabilities. Please have a listen. Piano, reverse cymbals, FX-type sounds, and many other sounds were heard. This teaser has three main parts. From the top, the rhythm system. Next, a piano or melodic keyboard type instrument. Finally, percussion and hex-type sounds. As for the major shape of the mix, I basically do not use 3DX for the rhythm ones, but create a solid mix, moving the chord instruments and effectual sounds to the right and left. The DAW I use is ProTools, and in fact, because it is a binaural mix, I don't have any surround sound settings, and everything is routed in stereo. Of course, 3DX has a variety of plugin formats, so you can use it with the DAW you normally use. VST3, AU, and AAX are supported. Now let's take a look at these three types, one by one. As I mentioned at the beginning, the rhythm part is not really moving. It's easier to hear from a listener's point of view if there's something solid in the middle. But with various sounds flying to the right and left, I use it rather heavily and solidly.
Hi.
I use a lot of reverb for height and spaciousness, which I'll talk about later. On the rhythm track, there are no plugins directly plugged into the track. Now, let's listen to the melodic instruments. One solo from the middle. I think this area is very impressive. Many of them are actually moving left-right, but they are used in two different ways. One pattern is actually moving them using 3DX, and the other pattern is used to add a spreading component. As an image, 3DX is also very good for spreading out actual stereo sound sources, as used in Waves S1 and Plugin Alliance's 3D plugins. So I hope this guide will help you by seeing it in action. Next, I would like to take a look at the actual instruments that are being moved. Here is an impressive phrase. Now, right to left, the first half moves from left to right. When I add these little movements, I actually add the movements using 3DX by hand. This is how the movement is done. The nice thing about this plugin is that the various parameters are independent. So you might think it's hard to move them around, but you can change all the movements just by grabbing them. In practice, the easiest way to use this plugin is by memorizing the movements in ProTools. Now that this one is ready to be written in touch mode with automation, you can actually move it around. As you can see, it's better to actually draw by hand. If you don't want to move it by hand, you can, of course, draw it exactly on the graph. I think you should be able to use it in a variety of ways. Right now, only the x-axis is moving exactly on the graph. I mentioned that there's another way to use it, which is by giving it a spreading component, which is not actually moving the sound, but spreading the width. This is similar to the use of S1 I mentioned earlier. Here, what kind of parameters are actually used? If you expand it a bit, you'll see that there is a parameter called width in the scale section, which allows you to change the width of the image. Originally, it looks like this. I like 2.4. I often use it in my everyday 2-channel mixes, as it allows me to widen the sound source rather naturally, if not binaurally, by setting the width to this level. Compared to the S1, the spread of the sound is clear, so I think that 3DX is the most beautiful when you want to intentionally spread out the sound, or when you want to spread it out clearly and actually have a piano or live instrument in front of you. In fact, this can even be turned on and off as you like. With the plugin set to inactive, this is not EQ'd or anything, so here's the raw sound. There's some left-right swing. It can be quite surprising how the sound is moving to the right and left, but when you want to create the feeling of a piano playing in a room, realistically moving to the right and left, or circling around your ears, just give it a spread instead of moving it with 3DX, and the sound will sound more natural. It is surprisingly difficult to produce the natural sounding sensation in a mix, so the nice thing about this width is that it does not rely on reverb, etc., to achieve this natural finished feel. Let's actually move it around. As you can see, even when expanded to a loud max 3, it does not collapse that much. This one is actually used a lot in the mix, and it is one of the recommended ways to use it. As an added bonus, I'll show you how you can use it effectively by moving it around with a lot of flair. Please focus on the interesting sound in the middle. This is the sound behind this impressive phrase. I wanted to try to make this sound interesting somehow. Can you imagine how it actually works? If you look at the waveform as it is something that moves left, right. This is the original sound. But if you want something a little more fancy, this is how 3DX works from the beginning. In fact, this is the kind of movement I was talking about. It is not the sound of a fancy movement to the right or left, but rather a movement around the head, and it is done freehand. It would take a lot of work to draw this kind of movement with automation, but I think the good thing about this plugin is that you can draw it freehand without using a special panner. Now, I'll show you the second major way to use it, which is to actually make it high, low, and expansive. This is a rather special use, but one that I personally like to use, and one that is only possible because of 3DX. This is my little secret. In fact, I apply 3DX after the reverb. You can see when I open it up, I'm creating reverb at the top and the bottom. I'm forcing it to be like surround sound while there's only stereo. But I have a lot of personal experience with this reverb component at the top and bottom, and find it is effective in doing binaural mixes. Let's try listening to how the upper and lower nuances change while actually turning them on and off in the song. I will turn it off the first time and turn it on in the middle of the song. I'll put it in here.
ここで入れます。
I think that it's quite subtle and nuanced, but actually, it's easier to see it above. I think the ceiling feels like a fluffier, higher sound source. This is a wonderful way to use the sound, but I think it is quite difficult to create this expression of the upper part of the sound in a mix. So I think it is better to use the space of the mix itself to expand upward or downward, rather than to raise each individual sound up. Another good thing about using this method is that you can use 3DX together with reverb and plugins that you are used to using, such as surround, reverb with height channel, and reverb with immersive sound. I think this is the best part of using it this way. For example, if you keep the lower reverb time short and extend the upper reverb time upward, you can create a church-like sounding expression. I think it's possible to effectively create the feeling of space itself using 3DX. I hope you've gotten the impression that 3DX can be used in a variety of ways. It's a very useful plugin that can be used not only to change stereo or monaural sound sources to binaural, but also as a tool for floating or moving sounds in your everyday mixes and any other mixes you do. We would be very happy if you could use it in a variety of ways and also introduce it to others who are interested in using it in this way. Also, of course, 3DX is compatible with immersive sound and multi-channel, so you can try using it in those contexts. And there are also parameters for using ambisonic. This concludes the teaser introduction of making mixes using 3DX. Thank you for listening.